All right, we are live. I'm Rashonda Tate Billingsley.
And I'm Victoria Christopher Murray. And today, Rashonda, this is a special edition of Politics, Prose, and Pop Culture, right?
That's right. We come to you around 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern, but the polls will be closing then. So we needed to come to you earlier just to put a reminder out that today is election day.
Go out and vote. And Rashonda, these are the elections that make the difference, right?
That's right. You know, here in Texas, we'll be voting on 8 constitutional amendments. Well, because there aren't any people per se on the ballot, a lot of people may tend to just kind of blow it off. But these are some serious things that we need to know about. You know, that they're things that affect our lives, and these are decisions that are made. We might not be voting on the people that affect our lives, but we're voting on amendments that will affect our lives. There's also a proposition whether to turn the Woodlands into a city, the mayor of Baytown, little things or that may seem little to you, but actually can make a big difference.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think we don't realize. We're thinking the president is the most important election, and he is very important. But I hope people can see with what's going on with Biden right now that he doesn't have all the power. It's the people below him that have the power. He's been trying to push bills through and everything, but he can't do anything without Congress. And so there are so many elections going on today. You have your initiatives going on in Texas, all throughout Texas. I think you said that there are some people running for mayor as well. And then there's some really big elections all throughout the country, you know, in Boston. Can you imagine, Rashonda, in this day and time, Boston is about to make history. It will be the very first time Boston has a female mayor, one, and it will be a woman of color. Not a Black woman running, but an Asian woman and then a woman from the Middle East. So that's going to be big. That's history. That's going to be happening. And then New York is going to make history today. It will probably be our second, I'm still a New Yorker, even though I haven't lived there, but it'll probably be our second Black mayor after David Dinkins. He's running against someone who I've always admired, though. He's running against the person who started the Guardian Angels. Mm-hmm. And the Guardian Angels was this group in New York. I remember being a kid, and he was this young guy, like 18 years old. And he used to go out, and they were unarmed, but they would make sure that people were safe. And he's running as a Republican. And some people say, why are you running as a Republican? That was his only choice. And so I've always admired him. He won't win running as a Republican, but that's a great race that's going on. And then there's another race, governor of New Jersey. You know what the history is going to be here, Rashonda? Mm-hmm. This is the first time that a Democratic governor will be reelected.
Yeah, which is sad, but
isn't that sad? Usually, you people put in a Democratic governor in New Jersey, and people are like, look, let's go get us a Republican. And New Jersey is like the bluest of the blue states. So Murphy will be reelected, I'm pretty sure, because he's just done a phenomenal job. And then there's Virginia, Rashonda.
That's the big one. Well, they're all big, but that one is huge. Yeah.
It's a big one because I just got off an hour and a half of making calls, and I'm going to go back and do another hour. It's a big one because of what the Republicans are running on. They're running on this critical race theory that doesn't exist. And the Republican who is just a Trump acolyte, he is saying, my first day, I'm going to ban critical race theory. There's no such thing. That's like if you came to my house and I said, I'm banning anyone speaking Chinese. Nobody speaks Chinese in my house.
Right. So, you know, Victoria, I think one of the things that people, you know, we're trying to stress for everyone, even if you're not in a place like Virginia or New Jersey, why these elections are important. Because he can get in Virginia and just alter the course of
History.
elections and
Yeah.
everything, politics.
Well,
So it does matter to us.
that's what they're trying to do. Trump is trying to Trump will not announce whether or not he's going to run for re-election until he's sure he has all his people in place. And so he needs governors in place who will overturn the election. That he will not announce. I promise you. Trump is not going to announce until he sees if his people are in place in Virginia and then 2020. He will announce right after that. If we keep the House in 2022, which I am praying we do, Trump will not run for re-election. He will not run.
In a way, Victoria, a lot of these people don't realize this vote today on Tuesday today is Tuesday.
Yeah.
I voted early, so I'm a little lost. This vote today is a dress rehearsal for 2022.
It really is.
Yeah. And so a lot of the voting restrictions have been implemented. There is a lot of attention on Atlanta right now because of all the voting changes. And Atlanta has a primarily Democratic, Fulton County especially, but how things go today could justify a state takeover for a new election law. And so that's why they're closely watching this, so that they're trying to justify any problems they may have.
Yeah. And you know what's so crazy about the Atlanta situation, where they're going to be voting for a new mayor there today? They have like 14 or 17 people running. So there is definitely going to be a runoff in the next few weeks, I believe. But you know what's so crazy about Atlanta? The white politicians, because it is a racial thing, the white Republicans are saying, we're going to see if there are any problems in the Atlanta election. And if there are problems, then we're taking over Fulton County. But then they put everything in place to make sure that there are problems.
Right.
Like they have long lines, and they're now blaming Fulton County for long lines when they've taken out voting machines. They've closed down locations. You can't do ballot boxes. So of course there's going to be problems. And they want to take over Fulton County so that that Stacey Abrams can't win if she decides to run for governor, that Reverend Warnock will not be able to be reelected. But I hope that Black voters, because we're the ones who are going to make the decision, I hope that we realize that we can switch everything. Because if they want to take Toni Morrison out of school, they want to take everything out. And we need to go and say, not on our watch.
That's right.
I'm making all of these calls, and I don't live in Virginia. The reason I'm making all these calls in Virginia is I'm saying not on my watch.
That's right. This is just a dress rehearsal, like we said, for 2022. And it's really a way for them to go in and see what changes need to be made. And it's a way for us to see that. We have a comment from Sylvia Grady Phillips, who said she went to vote today and there were only about 10 people there.
That scares me.
And the enthusiasm
where
of Republicans
is
high in Houston. So she's saying we have to get this information out there. And that's really what we're trying to do, is to educate people, because the Republican enthusiasm is high in off elections like this. And so they'll be the ones making those decisions that affect our lives.
Yeah. It's just so sad, because then later on people are asking, why are we fighting with the Supreme Court now on a woman's right to choose? Because you're one of my dearest friends, so you know that I am against abortion, but I am for a woman's right to choose. It's nobody else's business to make that choice for her. But we're here because we didn't pay attention.
Right.
We haven't been paying attention. Every election counts. My mother used to say to us, I don't care if it's only the person running for dog catcher.
Mm-hmm.
You go and vote for that dog catcher.
That's right.
Because it will make a difference in your life.
And that's what we're hoping. We just wanted to drop in today to educate you, to encourage you to get out and vote, no matter what.
If friends in any of these states, just start texting them and saying, hey, have you voted yet? Have you voted? You're going to vote. We need, because elections will be that close. Every single vote will count.
That's right. That's right. So we're hoping you will call 5 people, tell them to get out and vote, and we're gonna just pray that nobody says what election, but we know there's some people out there to say that. But we've got to educate, we've got to get out, and that's what we wanted to do. Just drop in and bring that to you.
Yeah, but we'll be back next week with more politics, prose, and pop culture.
Before we go, Sylvia asked us to tell us the states. Well, all of the states that are holding elections are important, but there's some specific ones to pay attention to, right?
Yeah, well, Virginia is very important because it's a Republican who's going to be trying to switch the presidential vote. Mm-hmm. So Virginia, call all of your friends. New York has the mayor race going. The Democrats will have that. New Jersey, I'm still pretty sure, but call your friends in New Jersey. I texted my cousins today. And then Atlanta has the mayor race going. So there are elections all over the country.
In Houston, we also have some school districts, some school board elections, and those are extremely important.
Right now. That is the most important thing right now. Not only that, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be talking to people that just go show up at your school board meetings.
Yes.
That just show up, and I'll be telling why.
As we said last week, what they're doing is they're training tomorrow's CEOs. And with all the critical race theory that they're trying to shove down our throats, we don't want that hammered into our kids' heads. Well, if the people on the school board, that if that's their belief, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, but there's no such thing as critical race theory.
I know.
Nobody's teaching no critical race theory. Yeah. Nobody, anywhere, no place. And so they just made it up. And there's this great interview going on where these people are going around asking all these white people, what's your number one problem in Virginia? They said critical race theory. They're like, well, what is it? And they stand there dumbfounded.
Right.
And one guy said, well, I don't really want to try to explain it, because, and he's like, well, then but you said you voted because, he's like, yeah, well, we shouldn't be doing it. Well, what is it? There's no such thing.
All right. Well, we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Politics, Prose, and Pop Culture.
Yep. I'm Victoria Christopher Murray.
And I'm Rashonda Tate Billingsley. We'll see you next time.
Bye.